So you're pulling a Mark.
No, I'm not jerking off at a constant rate where I literally have to like regenerate my dick skin because it's rubbed off constantly. Like Super Saiyan
here,
cock
bud.
rubbing.
Don't need to.
There's a lot going on right there. I'm not sure if that really hit the borderline of mean or not. It felt a little close.
I meant to say Naruto, but because he regenerates.
I mean, Super Saiyan cock rubbing, I think worked just fine.
Is it then become Kamehameha?
Kamehameha! Kamehameha!
Your mother's an iPhone 12. Whoa!
Oh, rude.
Because everybody picks her up from the store and then throws her away after. Oh!
Whoa.
That was rude.
Oh, wow, that was damn.
Ah! Clink, clank, it's time to clinkety clank. Clink, clink, clank.
Ooh, clinkety.
Clink, clank. Clinkety
As you can tell,
clank,
it's not the
clank.
first drink.
Ooh.
Hello, and welcome to Strange Happy Hour. I, of course, am one of your hosts, Brent the Jesterhead Metcalf, along to my left.
Dispatcher, Mark Plover.
He peeked out a little bit there, and I did that because I was mean to him before the show, so I had to pick him first. And off to the right,
Handsome John.
handsome John, indeed. Look at that visage. Look at it. Look at it. It's just so cute. It's just so cute. Go on, pitch those cheeks. Of course, we come to you each and every week to talk about the very cool tech news as well as the very nerdy video game news. But we don't have time to discuss everything that happens in the world. Surprisingly enough, it's only January. There's still tons of news. We don't have time to discuss how HBO is releasing a second Game of Thrones spinoff based on the tale of Dunk and Egg. I am so excited for this. So excited for this. We don't have time to talk about... Oh my God, John, that's your next audible. I got you, fam. We don't have time to discuss Vicarious Visions is now a part of Blizzard Entertainment. Womp, womp, womp. So sad to see such a talented developer go down in flames. We also don't have time to discuss how Gabe Newell says Valve is not only going to release more games, but eventually in the future, our meat peripherals will be replaced with technology. That's right. That's what he called your eyes, folks. We do have time to discuss meat peripherals. That is not
like Futurama iPhone level.
Come on, Gabe.
I know. Gabe Newell, meat peripherals, forever going to be a headline. But we do have time to discuss what we like to call on this very show each and every week as we together, blah, 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 blah. We don't have anything from the top, so we get to continue on with our normal show, what we like to call the important shit. There we go. I think we're going to start with the dispatcher himself discussing one of the big tech giants of the world, Apple, and what's happening with iPhone 12s.
Oh, like we don't talk enough about Apple, over the last year or whatever it was. Hey, those are banned words on Twitch now, if you didn't know.
No!
Anyway.
I said sales.
iPhone 12 and...
You're dying over that. Like, you're saying it so quickly, it actually sounds like you might be having a seizure.
Yeah. That's okay. Brent, you yelled it out like you were having a stroke, so.
I know.
Anyway.
We'll bring all the medical issues here on the show.
That's okay. If you have an iPhone 12, be careful. You could have some other medical issues. If you have an implanted medical device in particular, like having an implanted defibrillator or having a pacemaker, magnets are generally not good for those things, as your doctor generally advises you. Unfortunately, with the new MagSafe tech, having a MagSafe charger or the iPhone 12 itself within 6 inches of your body can cause problems with those. Now, we haven't actually seen any cases of people being affected themselves by it.
That we know of.
To be fair, we
Big Apple covering it up.
We haven't heard of any actual cases of it, but the risk is still there and it has been identified. We had actually had some information put out specifically by Apple in their what's the type of documentation called for that? I guess their advice
News
documentation,
release?
their user agreement documentation, essentially, that says that. So, for example, actual quote from them specifically on MagSafe. So initially, by the way, Apple had denied the claim that the iPhone 12 had actually caused problems with that, even though they did acknowledge the fact that there are additional magnets now available on the iPhone 12 for MagSafe. However, they did put out advice for the MagSafe charger and the MagSafe Duo charger, specifically saying that, quote, all MagSafe accessories, in parentheses, each sold separately, also contain magnets, and MagSafe charger and MagSafe Duo charger contain radios. These magnets and electromagnetic fields might interfere with medical devices. They did eventually put out a statement similar to that about the iPhone 12, stating that it might cause some interference with implanted medical devices. But there's a lot of kind of back and forth that had to happen about this between, let's see. So Heart Rhythm Journal is the first one who did the study on the iPhone 12 with the new MagSafe tech to determine whether or not it was going to cause a problem. They determined that within 6 inches between the medical device that might be implanted inside you and the iPhone itself could cause some interference that could cause it to fail. Now, that's not an uncommon thing. People who have implanted medical devices like that should know, because it's something that you're iterated about quite a bit, that magnets can mess with this. Like, for example, MRIs are giant magnets. You should not be near one of those, or you should advise your doctor before you go in for medical procedures regarding that.
I believe they call it the triple M. Magnets make mayhem.
Did you come up with that on the spot? Or
I did. You like that? That was pretty
impressive.
good, right?
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. Wow.
I just need constant validation.
Yeah. All I can think of is that some kid put their phone on Grandpa's chest and he died the next day, and they're like, "Yeah, he was doing just fine. I don't know what happened."
I mean,
Tim Cook is like, hide the body, hide the body. Pay the family off.
Oh God, I have a weird story to follow up with airlines on that one. But anyway, so Apple did eventually add documentation or safety documentation to the iPhone 12 and talking about MagSafe, specifically MagSafe accessories, where they it had to go through the Heart Rhythm Journal's study first, where Apple then denied it and then added it to their support documentation without actually claiming, okay, yeah, we're going to acknowledge this. That was their acknowledgement, essentially. Mac Rumors is the one who first found it out, where they added into their documentation stating, quote, medical devices such as implanted pacemakers and defibrillators might contain sensors that respond to magnets and radios when in close contact. To avoid any potential interactions with these devices, keep your iPhone and MagSafe accessories at a safe distance away from your device, more than 6 inches /15 centimeters apart, or more than 12 inches 30 centimeters apart if wirelessly charging. But consult with your physician and your device manufacturer for specific guidelines.
See, it's funny because you said like this is kind of an obvious thing for people who have this illness, but I also look at the fact that like Apple has to make this an add-on. Like nobody at Apple was like, hey, by the way, maybe we should put a warning out there.
I find out I would think that there is zero chance that nobody at Apple working on the iPhone 12 project would not have their own implanted medical device somewhere. Now, okay, to be fair, there's the whole thing of, like you don't have to disclose, your own medical needs or whatever, or your own personal medical information, in your workplace and whatnot. But I'm just saying, if you do, you're probably going to be one of those people that has an iPhone 12 because you're working on the damn project.
Yes.
You would think that you'd want to take your own health concerns into consideration there too. So,
well, you have to be careful around microwaves and stuff like that. But I mean, unless this thing is directly on you, like you're not going to run into these situations normally. But again, people fall asleep with their phones on their chest when they're like looking at their phone at night, and then they throw it in the bed and roll over on it or whatever. Like that could become a situation in which they would be held liable.
Not only that, John, I mean, you and I have both worked in an industry where you're, technical, you're being physical with a machine, and the shirts that we used to have had pockets right here. So whenever I needed light, I would turn the flashlight on my phone and stick it in my chest pocket because it's easy for me to manipulate a machine at that point,
right?
With it there. And so once again, like it is common sense, but at the same time, the multi-billion-dollar corporation that created this device also didn't have the warnings on there. They don't have to, but you're selling to billions of people out there. Right. Like you should
take all of this into account. Unfortunately, the effects that your product has do matter in that respect. So the funny part about
if there
this,
actually has been a death, and that's what came up of this, and they were like, I'm pretty sure, I mean, the magnet in this did something, and they're gonna be like, you don't say anything, we're gonna put that in here and we're gonna go. That's pretty much how that went.
The only reason that this is particularly news, like if Apple had just put it in a support document right from the rip, or had acknowledged the problem, said, yeah, okay, we missed this, we're gonna add it now, probably wouldn't be that big a deal. Like we wouldn't be talking about it as much right now. The biggest thing that came in anyway was when Apple said that they responded to the initial claims by the Heart Rhythm Journal by adding it to a support document, emphasizing, saying that the iPhone 12 does not, quote, pose a greater risk of magnetic interference to medical devices than prior iPhone models. But then they later updated the support document to go through the large paragraph that I mentioned earlier. So,
yeah,
why do you backpedal?
Yeah, which one is it?
Because science said it is.
You put out the initial statement, but the problem is that at some point legal's probably screaming at you saying, we have a giant risk here. Like there's actual medical studies by a medical journal that says this is a possibility. Why are you not acknowledging the problem? What it sounds like is, okay, we're going to say this up front that we don't acknowledge this at all, or say that it's a problem. People keep buying iPhones. Then whenever the risk could possibly pose a greater threat, then we'll say, oh, hey, by the way, this could pose a risk to that, after you might have already bought one.
No company's ever done that before.
Nope.
Right. But
all I know, Mark, is that you got the device name wrong. It's not a pacemaker, it's a percolator. It was close though.
Percolator. Yeah. Oh, okay. I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Lovely for some juice. Making coffee off your heartbeat.
Correct. Yeah, it keeps it going. God knows I need my percolator to get jump started in the morning.
Yeah, but it just got even like the other side of it too was like Apple still again refused the idea that it was really going to cause any kind of major effect here, but they did have to acknowledge it officially in support documentation. So they need to just pick a side, say, yeah, all right, we fucked up, no big deal, we'll acknowledge that we didn't include this and we should have, so here it is.
I will say that companies don't acknowledge anything unless something happened. They're totally reactive. They are not proactive.
I agree with that entirely.
Honestly, it's one of my favorite lines from Fight Club is when he's sitting on the plane.
We don't
talking about what he does, specifically about evaluating the calculation of what it would cost to do a recall versus what the actual lawsuit payout would be to the multitude of families, based on lives lost, and determining which one's more expensive and then going with the alternate option.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's car manufacturers do this on a regular basis with recalls.
Correct.
Well, Volkswagen was a great example. Volkswagen was fined by the federal government for lying to the NHTSA and the EPA about what their emissions look like by modifying the ECUs on cars. But then they sold them with the original ECUs in them. The reason is that if they had done it with the modified ECU to reduce the emissions, the power output and the fuel economy would have been terrible. So instead, what they do is they say, yeah, it's probably cheaper for us to just eat the fine here that's going to come 3 years down the road when somebody finally finds out about it, rather than us having to eat the fine or having to re-engineer the entire mechanical process of these motors now.
It wasn't even, no, they actually built in code to fool the readers into thinking the emissions were something else. They were being objectively just shady about it.
It's that same calculation. Yeah, it's still that same calculation though. Like what costs more, the fine or this?
Right, but is paying the NHTSA fine, cheaper or not? So
what this reminds me of, honestly, is that whole, urban legend, I say in quotes, of like how no one dies in Disney World
or Disneyland. Throwing a cat in the microwave.
So that's a perfect loop right back to what I had mentioned earlier and quick about the
I missed what you said, John, because you cut out.
Why am I cutting out? I literally did a speed check and I got like 90 up and down.
But
well, I mean, what'd you say?
Oh, I'm talking about throwing a cat in the microwave.
Once again, you said talking about and it went womp.
Yep. Right out.
Into nothing.
I'm pretty sure they're censoring me actively.
The best part is Brent and I are not hearing what you're saying, but everyone else listening to this is hearing what you're saying too. So
agreed. So I hope you're just saying ragamuffin.
Yep, that's it.
Sure. Yep.
Okay.
Totally. But no, actually that loops perfectly around about, nobody ever dies at Disneyland. Nobody ever dies on airplanes. You know why?
Yep.
Because there are no doctors around necessarily or on call on the clock doctors to determine someone actually legally dead on an airplane. What they do is they remove them from the airplane first.
And then the EMT looks at them.
Then the EMT declares them legally dead. So they didn't die on the flight. They died in the terminal.
Yep.
Well, not only that, but there are a lot of them won't determine death until they get to the hospital. In general,
sometimes, yeah.
Also valid. We're spiraling. Apple, MagSafe. What are your thoughts, folks? Please let us know in the comment section, floating directly below me. Actually, below this wonderful Google on my chest. Below me, if you know what I mean. Unless you guys have some other thoughts on the MagSafe and Apple.
Do you have an IMD? Is there something that is this going to affect you?
We'd like to know. I do have an IMD.
Do you want to test it and let us know?
But yeah, don't test it. No, do not do what John said. Do not test this at home. I would be really cool. I should create one now. Now that we're in this, to create the illusion of internet. Anyways, let us know what your thoughts are on the MagSafe. Are you concerned? Have you been concerned to begin with? Because honestly, when I heard magnets, my first thought was it's kind of a problem. I guess we'll figure it out. And looks like Apple's figuring it out. Please let us know, floating directly in front of the strange symbol on Mark's chest. But now it's time for John's topic of our show. Handsome John, talk to us about what Microsoft's doing with dead people. What?
The scariest thing imagined for mental health that you can come up with.
They should talk to Apple. Apple's creating dead people, and then Microsoft's doing something with them.
Making sure that Microsoft, actually recreates in real life a Black Mirror episode.
Yeah, I expected seriously for this to be Apple, or I'm sorry, Amazon before Microsoft. Yeah. To be fair, this feels like it's just weird saying it, but Microsoft has filed a patent that would allow the company to digitally revive deceased loved ones using chatbots and individual information. So essentially, they're going to take who you are and manipulate you to basically, I forget what the application was where they were able to take your face and put it on someone else. And they could force them to talk through computer generation and whatnot. But it's going to be an AI-based chatbot. Includes their images, voice data, social media posts, electronic messages, and other personal information. So they're going to have the personality of the person that you're talking to. I mean, can you just see the mental churning problem of this as it starts? I mean, you have people who already have issues with people who have died.
Yes. If Netflix made it an entire show, made an episode in an entire show around this, you shouldn't touch it.
I mean, we've all learned that sci-fi pretty much becomes true eventually. I'm waiting for Futurama to really take hold because it's coming.
The Black Mirror episode is called Be Right Back.
Yeah.
And it stars Charlie Booker and Haley Atwell and Domhnall Gleeson, who you will have known, like as soon as you look at it, Haley Atwell's Peggy Carter and Domhnall Gleeson's been a lot of stuff. I can't really pick him out right now, but
the thing that's scary about this more than anything else is the fact that it's going to be like this immersive experience that can transcend time as well. So these bots are having conversations through voice or text chats or whatever, and they can even take their vernacular of what they usually use in language and use that in those texts. So if your grandpa never used the word you, they used y'all, then that's what they're going to use. They're going to learn who they are in order to make this person essentially. And then they're also going to be making like 2D, 3D images of these people. So you're going to be actually having conversations with an individual that you think is your grandpa, like or whatever. Like I have a thing because my grandfather died a few years back, so that's why I'm thinking about that. But I can't. People have a hard time moving on when it comes to death. And here you are putting something in front of them where they can literally have conversations with up-to-date information about what's happened in the world or with your friends or with the family based on social media posts involving you and your family and how they were connected and everything else. Do you feel the creepiness from this? Like in your soul, this is going to be a real up thing. Like Microsoft, if you have a soul, do not do this. Throw it away.
We're just one step away from the robot that, you know, like then looks like, you know, your deceased loved one and acts like
this is better than that because they don't have to maintenance it. Like it's just a program. But I mean, people who already are on the fringe or dealing with things, they're going to be talking with these people. I mean, you're going to be like, what was the last conversation you had with your grandfather? Oh, I can't remember because I'm still talking to him. Like,
see, I wanted to reference back to an article that we had talked about before where you know, the whole like combined photo thing, you know, where if you did a ton of web scraping anyway, the company that did a ton of web scraping pulled a bunch of photos, profile information with names and whatnot. So if police wanted to, you know, look up somebody, they could, you know, just based on a really rough image of them. Microsoft had said, as well as Google and Facebook had said, that it was ethically irresponsible for them to do so. So they didn't do it. But here we are with fucking Microsoft.
Welcome to 2021.
Like, this is 2020 part 2. This is not 2021. Like, no. Like, if we're talking about implementing something like this, first off, implementing something like this for people, because it's targeted at people who have deceased loved ones who are grieving. It is not healthy for that.
No,
maybe that's opinion, but like to me,
that's not opinion.
I'm pretty sure
that's
common
that is
knowledge.
absolutely correct.
But that's not healthy. Like you have to eventually move on from that, and latching to something like that is not healthy.
This is how you end up downloading your brain to a computer. It's coming.
I thought it was funny that you literally used the word transcend earlier to reference the movie Transcendence.
Yeah. Transcendence.
You know, about you know, having your consciousness available, you know, through some machine learning or, you know, internet-based thing that, you know, it's just next level of what we're trying to do.
I think it's no like surprise to anybody who watches the show, to you too, that, you know, I don't necessarily have a religious connotation. I do have a spiritual connotation, which is weird to say because I'm not a hippie. Yeah. But I do believe that there is some reverence for the dead. Now, I'm not talking about sugarcoating. You know, my brother passed away over 10 years ago, and I will still to this day tell you that as much as I loved him to death, he had his flaws just like anybody else. And anybody who tries to rewrite history with these nice memories and without, you know, including the grit, I tell them they're wrong often.
Well, it's not about being wrong as much as it is you want to remember the good stuff. Like you don't want to harp on the bad stuff.
There's a difference between remembering the good stuff and trying to rewrite what
and I agree with that hands down.
Yeah.
My grandfather was no angel.
Yeah. Nobody. Yeah. I mean, we're all human. Like we all have our flaws and we've all done bad things as well as good things. But my point being, like, there is a level of like you have to let go. Right? We've talked about it. It is healthy. Like that is a response we all deal with.
Coping with death is a part of life.
The grieving process is natural. Like that you're supposed to go through that process.
And you can tackle that in many ways. You know, recently my wife and I have really clung to the movie Coco because the idea of Coco is that this kid goes into the afterlife, what you know is traditionally the Mexican belief of afterlife, to see family and figure out stuff going on with his family.
Very good movie.
It is a great movie, but it's also like a very optimistic look at what happens to people when they leave. And it's not like we're sitting here consciously thinking that's what happens, but it's a nice thought to think of. It helps us kind of cope with the fact that people are gone in our life. Like those are the kinds of steps you should be taking. It's the reality that they are gone. And the hope is that they're happier or something has happened in the extent that they're no longer suffering, whether they're actively happy in a way that we don't understand or their suffering they had here is now over, whatever the case may be. it helps you feel better as a person.
And hence the phrase of they're in a better place now. Which
correct,
does also have a religious
term I can think of is that this makes it feel perverted. It actually, to me, it perverts the memory of your loved one or, whoever this person may be. And it's not that it's an untrue thing, but it didn't actually happen. And it's almost making a fantasy world out of a dead person, and it just doesn't feel good.
Well, not only that, you're living in the delusion that they're still here in some form or another. They're not.
Yeah, you're honestly selling a delusion at this point in time. Are you going to be responsible for this person's mental health after you get done fucking their brain with a screwdriver? What happens to
the first person who fucking kills themselves because of the fact they realized that the one line was wrong on the chatbot? Is Microsoft liable for that? They should be. Like,
no.
You're literally peddling the situation in which you're trying to give them this delusion.
Obviously, it's going to be put with a disclaimer. This is not a real person. This is it could technically, if used in the right way, it could probably be used in a therapeutic manner, but this is not how that's going to be handled.
See, this is the problem I have, though, is that Microsoft's going to claim zero responsibility for anything that comes from it, because it's going to be machine learning. It's going to be based application based on the input from your loved one's social media input. Sure, there's a disclaimer, but okay, full spoiler alert. Do we all remember how that Black Mirror episode ended?
I didn't watch it.
Where she freaked out and said that wasn't him. I'm going to throw the spoiler alert thing up, but like it's not him, that's not who he was, that kind of thing. And she came to that realization. The problem is that she had to go through all kinds of psychotic episodes in between there to get to that point. So it was, the problem is that for somebody who already would be in a more mentally unstable position from there, Microsoft is going to require that you sign a disclaimer that they are not responsible for anything past that point. Yes, ethically they should be, but legally they're not going to be.
Yeah.
And that's the problem.
I could see past issues, like say your father dies and you were never able to resolve or tell him, what you felt, why you were angry, why you're sad. I could see that being therapeutic in that sense, but it being used as a tool by an oversight and through multiple studies through psychologists and medical universities going, this can technically be used as a helpful tool. I could see that being a thing later on down the road. Again, it's a muddied water. That is best case scenario of this.
The problem I see with it though is
it's looking for closure for someone who never got it. Say someone died in an accident, died suddenly.
We have techniques for that now, though. Like, we have therapies for that. We have ways to handle that now that don't include some way of trying to revive this person even digitally. They're not all effective, and it takes time from personal use and people being involved in it.
And there's always new techniques coming by to help people. Not everything is going to stay the same either.
Well, but the problem with this one is that, just like you said, it perverts a lot of what I would argue, hold reverent, at the same time also possibly putting people in a position where they're reliant upon it.
I think it's going to be, like I said, in order not to make it perverted, doing studies and having professionals looking at this, saying whether this is going to be a healthy option for therapy in this manner, supervised, the whole thing would be supervised. There's no way you could just let it go.
I think say don't even fucking open the door. That's Pandora's box, in my opinion.
And I kind of agree with that, but like I said, that was best case scenario for me. That's the way I looked at. If this was no matter what, we don't have a choice whether this comes to market or not. If I was to help affect its limitation, that would be the direction I would go, because I think that would be the best possible outcome.
I think limiting this to the point that it would be a tool for professional diagnosis, I think that might be okay. I think that would be something that Microsoft offers this to psychologists, psychiatrists, who deal specifically with people who have loss of family members like that, and maybe need something they need to get out in an avenue that feels more real for therapeutic purposes.
Like screaming at a picture or a mirror or whatever that you would be doing. I'm not saying that you would actually even do this in therapy.
But only if it's validated first. It needs to be vetted before it's something that can just broadly go to market. Actually, let me rephrase that. It should never go broadly to market. It should go broadly to market in the therapeutic sense to licensed individuals only, or like I guess people who actually are there to help other individuals through this.
It's kind of like grenades. Only certain people can buy them.
I think the problem right now is that you're talking about a large corporation that makes its money off of selling software, asking them to not sell software. And
they don't have to. Totally. They don't.
They shouldn't. No, they should keep this patent and never do anything with it. They should sue anybody who attempts to do something with it, and they should just keep it in a fucking lockbox.
It's fine by me.
Personally.
Well, okay.
That's what they should do.
That's what
Google, Microsoft, and Facebook should have done in the first place with the whole face search thing, but they never did
I agree
either.
with that entirely. Yeah, but that's my point. Is like there are things they should do morally for our society. They don't, because they care more about money. And I'm sorry, but this will sell. This will sell really well, because there's tons of people who don't know how to cope with death. And
there's a lot of people that also like living in fantasy worlds too. I mean, it's like, hey, I'm going to go talk to my friend. I'm chatting with him on, Skype or Zoom or whatever. And it's going to start really like seeping in, like to the point of, this is reality. This is, a girlfriend that leaves you and you just can't handle it. I mean, there's just so many possibilities for this affecting
so much
mental health in a negative way. It's just it's
there's so much room for irresponsibility here that this shouldn't exist.
Yeah, like John brought up the perfect point. Like this, like we're talking about dead people, but this truly could be used for fucking anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like literally at any point in time, you just go, well, this is a really bad breakup, but I don't want to lose her, him, whomever. So I'm just going to create this bot, and I'm just going to go home and I'm just going to talk to him. And that's going to be the person I talk to all the time.
I wonder if they're going to be able to make these bots strip naked. This just got really weird.
We're just talking about chat here, bud. We're like, well, hold on.
Oh no, this is video, 3D rendering models.
Yeah, they're creating models and everything.
So to get to this,
like them taking that information to ingest and then turning it.
It's worse than what you thought. It's worse than what you thought.
I hate quotes.
Okay, so we're literally one step away from having a fucking Android that can do this kind of thing.
Correct.
Yeah. So
I hurt. I hurt so much for where we're going to go from here.
It's terrifying.
Next thing I know, I'm going to look in the fucking mirror and I'm going to see like a little point rating that pops up next to my head and my name.
What a great episode of Black Mirror that was.
What my social point value is. Like, oh my god.
It's a fantasy that I think a lot of people who have lost have, right? Like there's always that, like, I would love to have that conversation. I'd love to talk to him again. But I think the conceit there is that you want to talk to the person, not an amalgamation of that person.
But that's the that's the eventuality of the episode. Again, spoiler alert, I guess.
Like, but once again, like you can't.
It's not actually that person. It will never actually be that person ever again.
Correct.
Unfortunately, that is the fault of life, is that death is an inevitability there.
Yes. I totally sympathize with anybody going through some traumatic major loss. I've been there. We've all been there to some degree or another. We understand.
100%.
But this is not a solution. Can it possibly be used for a tool? I think there's a realm there, but I also think that this is a little bit more
diagnosed only.
Yeah, this is a little bit more dangerous than I would be willing to go, because I look at like prescription drugs. We have prescription drugs that are supposed to be used as tools in specific situations. And what has happened is that capitalism has gotten in the way. People want to make money. So they're overprescribing opioids to the point where they want to make billions of dollars, and people are in pain because of it. That's exactly where I see this going. Personally, not to go on a super negative tirade here. I've been very negative about this, but that's because I have very strong feelings about this technology.
I'm with you in the sense that I don't think this should really exist. I think we're crossing a line here that crossing both an ethical and personal line that should not be crossed here. Yeah. When you're talking about having some sort of accurate reenactment of who that person is, then we're getting so. I don't know if this is really a topic that we brought up.
Stalker come in and make Ariana Grande in this, 3D AI capturing,
and like literally anybody,
intensifying the stalker. But no, I talked to you last night. We were supposed to meet together, and we were gonna bang till the freaking sun rises, right? But yeah, we're gonna do that.
Even worse, somebody makes a bot of somebody else and then uses that as a prank or a way to like get at it's.
So I was thinking along the lines of deep fakes. So deepfakes are already a problem as they are right now, because you can doctor a video to do pretty much anything if you have good enough AI software to make it happen. But
Jordan Peele had that great deepfake of him as Obama, where he was talking over the footage of Obama, and then it cuts to him, where it just proves like you just can't believe everything on the internet.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay, if you really want a good one to look at too, Linus Tech Tips did a video about what they would do as quote unquote, like what they would do as a contingency if Linus ever died. And Linus, like one of the first in the first 5 minutes, he's like, well, I mean, what would happen if I was walking to work one day and suddenly like I got hit by a bus? Well, they showed what a deep fake looked like of him doing a tech review. They had a guy who had an actor who had a similar build to him, similar facial appearance to some extent. And then they threw a deep fake of every Linus Tech Tips video that he'd ever done, compiled together to actually recreate his face in different lighting situations and something to recreate his voice in different vocal situations.
The Oprah show would never die.
It was moderately convincing. Like it was actually not bad, but you could definitely tell something was off.
Hell, the Insomniac games changed the face of Peter Parker in their Spider-Man games to better match the actual actor who portrays him in the motion capture and the voices. Like it's something that people are definitely leaning towards, and that technology is being used in a very good way, I would argue. Like is being used for entertainment and fun things. We saw it with Star Wars, right? Carrie Fisher passed away, but they were able to find a way to include like Princess Leia in Rogue One as a young person. Spoilers, you can throw up the spoiler thing for Mandalorian right now, the last episode of season 2, but like, young Luke comes on the stage. Like they're finding ways to make it work in entertainment and be useful and interesting and fun, and I think that technology has a space for it, but it's all of it's dangerous. And the problem right now we have, I believe, as a species, and I don't mean that as like a US society, I don't mean that as like a first world society. I mean, as a whole, is that we have had a problem understanding what we should and shouldn't use, for better or worse, right? Nuclear power and the nuclear bomb is a great example of that. We really opened up Pandora's box, and it has benefited us, and it has done terrible things. Chernobyl, 5 Mile Island, like we've opened that door. Hiroshima, of course. Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, the bomb dropping too, but like we've opened that door to all kinds of things. Yeah, it was a footnote. That was really bad. I'm sorry. It's not a footnote in history. That was terrible. But my point is, like, we've opened that door, and you can't put the genie back in the bottle after that. I'm mixing my metaphors. I don't care. Like, it's done. Like, nuclear power's out there, and that's a literal fear for nations that don't care what everyone else thinks. Right? We talk about North Korea all the time. If they ever get the ability to actively create nuclear warheads, where does that put us as a world? Not the United States, as a world. And in the same vein here, like, where does this put us 10, 20, 30, 50 years from now? You're talking about the ability to recreate someone. And we're talking about it in a very serious manner, because what Microsoft is describing is like half serious. But realistically, it's not the first step. It's the 10th step.
Right.
How do you protect yourself from misinformation? How do you protect your loved ones or anything? Like, what is the worst case scenario if like the people who go through kidnapping in Brazil of children to ransom them, they start using this digital footprint to find a way to where they can call phones and get a hold of kids and have them come to a certain location so they can get them. Like,
hey, it's your friend. Hey, it's your friend Timmy. Come meet me at this place.
Hey, it's Mom, I'm late to pick you up from school. Meet me here. Like, it is a very serious assertion, and it can go in a number of directions if you don't keep reins on it.
Right.
And that's the fear. Like, it's not just this one use case. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
So I've ranted long enough. I apologize. I did not mean to get that serious about it, but it's a subject that terrifies me.
It's
just
it's scary going
Korea
forward.
Already has about 20 to 30 nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
I mean, like, as far as
also
like,
terrifying,
as far as the example or the metaphor of nuclear weapons, or the simile of nuclear weapons and Chernobyl and whatnot, it is about the mismanagement or the mishandling.
Yeah.
If you manage it correctly, it is much less likely to be an issue. restriction on it is going to be very heavy there. And if you allow for it only to be used in official capacities, I think this could have a place, but it does not need to be available to the broad market.
Yeah.
So I think that Microsoft
North Korea has nukes. Can they hit us with them? Yes, they can. Yeah, I looked that up too.
If they have mismanagement of them, which will come down to their leader, then yes, that could actually be a real problem. But if they're managed correctly, if the country is managed correctly, then they could actually benefit from being part of sort of like the mutually, as bad as this sounds anyway, being part of the mutually assured destruction and the mad sort of pact anyway. That's part of this. It's
well, that's the path you go down, right? Like, again, you take the genie out of the bottle, then it becomes something that everyone can use to some degree. Then you have to reach that point. Like, that's the only conclusion. The other side of that coin is destruction, because it's either you all agree to not use it in order to keep sane and safe, or someone uses it and it all goes to hell.
Well, yeah, because the other side of this that could be terrifying too is Microsoft's now announced the fact that they have the capability of doing this.
Mm-hmm.
How long or what kind of effort would it really take for Facebook, who would be the worst company to probably have access to this kind of thing, but would also be the most viable company to have access to this kind of technology, or Google? I'm just saying, like,
no, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Two of the three companies that I would not want to have access to this period have the technological capability to do so. And if Microsoft, being what I would consider probably the middle of the three, to have the technological capability to make that happen, I would say that the other two have a reasonable viability to make that happen within the next couple of years if they wanted to.
I agree.
One of which would be less than a year if they really pushed for it. But it's a scary thought to think that there would be even a market for this kind of thing.
Yeah. Any final thoughts, John?
Bad idea. Don't do it.
don't fucking do it, Microsoft.
We don't talk about Fight Club, okay?
Get the patent and destroy any possible usability of it.
Eloquent in its brevity. I love it. Please let us know what your thoughts are on this. I mean, I genuinely do want to hear anybody who thinks they have a solid use case. I'm not trying to be argumentative.
I tried to, and you shut me down and then started yelling at me. So I don't think that's a good idea.
It's what I do on a normal basis. I feel like that's like our relationship.
It is. It's abusive. I'm going to need that technology for therapy later on when I kill you.
He was asking the question earlier why he has to be host. Well, it's because he does that kind of stuff.
Correct. That's absolutely right. You can let us know in the comment section that's directly on the American flag on John's head. And it's not really an American flag. I think it's an Oakley. Is that
Oakley?
No,
it's Under Armour, and it's an American flag, yes. Colors.
Is it Under Armour, really?
Yeah, UA.
Why are you wearing an Under Armour hat?
Because I wear Under Armour.
You're better than that.
Well, I got it custom.
That's true. It does look good. I like it. Good. Time to move on to my topic.
Wow.
I got the one size fits all head.
That is true. I need one of those too. I got a big old head. I'm going to talk about something completely different. Not really, because we're talking about the dead. We're talking about Capcom released a deluge of information on Resident Evil Village. So I thought that was actually kind of cool. And the one reason I want to talk about this is because I don't think Capcom gets enough props for what they're doing with their properties today. Capcom has been a very interesting publisher, because I would argue like in the mid to late 2000s, they were kind of falling downhill. They had the release of Resident Evil 5, which John, you played with a good friend of ours, and I watched you guys play it, and we all three had a good time, but it was very much not what Resident Evil
Evil. That's why I liked
wanted.
it, because it's not a normal Resident Evil game.
Correct. We can't play them. They're too spooky for us.
Too spooky.
Spooky. Resident Evil 6 came out to even worse acclaim. On top of their struggling to do something with Mega Man, like they had all kinds of issues. We don't need to talk about DMC 2 either. Like, awful game. But, Capcom in recent years has done a lot of good. We got DMC 5, which was incredible. They're releasing Resident Evil 7 and remaking 2 and 3, possibly hinting at a remake of 4 as well for Resident Evil, and now Resident Evil 8 Village. So they're able to dedicate a 15-minute stream to all this new information. So you can find the full vid in our Google Doc in the or in the description comment section as well. Maybe I'll just post it there just for fun. But in the description. But the big highlights are that as of right now, actually as of the release of the stream, but currently right now, if you are a PS5 owner, you can download the Maiden Demo is what it's called. And this demo does not include a section of the game, nor does it include the main character. It's very similar to the Resident Evil 7 demo, in which it's incorporating a different character going around for basically giving you the theme and the feel of Resident Evil 8 without actually giving you parts of the game. So I thought that was really cool. You can pre-order the game on all consoles, but if you pre-order it on PS4 specifically, this is what they highlighted in the video. It may be true for Xbox as well. If you pre-order it on PS4, you get the PS5 version for free digitally with that.
Nice.
Both of them are available same day and date. The release date is going to be on May 7th, which I think is fantastic. Resident Evil, for the past couple years, has come out historically between the February and March date. May's a little bit later, but still very cool. It's coming out and they're tiding everyone over this demo. It's a little bit PT-esque where there's like a lot of things that you can do. There's like hints and Easter eggs. Some people are thinking they found some Dino Crisis Easter eggs in there, which Capcom could revive next, which would be totally cool. I love dinosaurs.
Yes, you do.
Fighter. I would check that out. On top of that, they added the fact that they're going to introduce Resident Evil Reverse. So Reverse is going to be this multiplayer amalgamation game where you can play as various characters, protagonists throughout the Resident Evil franchise, fighting various villains and monsters from the series. And that includes everything up to 8 right now. It comes free packaged in with Resident Evil Village, but I think you might be able to purchase it outside of that. If you don't get Resident Evil Village, it seems like a really cool way to kind of pay homage to the franchise as well as give a means of multiplayer. They've attempted this in other games. Resident Evil on the 3DS had a mercenaries mode, which allowed you to play with friends. This seems like another re-up on it. My hope would be this becomes something like Fallout Warzone, right? Where it becomes like a kind of its own game as a service that can continue on through various Resident Evil games, and that people could just hop in whatever they want. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
To clarify, not Fallout Warzone, Call of Duty Warzone.
Yes. Thank you very much. I don't know why.
You were thinking Fallout 76 for a second there.
Call of Duty Warzone. Hey, Bethesda, make that game. Come on, you can work with Treyarch on this. I'd be interested to see what happens.
Don't you mean Microsoft?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, now that would be. I don't like to acknowledge that fact because it hurts me, but thank you for that. Thank you so much. They also talked about a Resident Evil crossover event in Division 2, which John, you and I can hop in anytime and check it out if you want. There's some cool armor and stuff. The fact that Ubisoft and Capcom are talking,
it blew me away. It blew me away too because I was like, where did this come from and why? Okay.
Like they're two third-party publishers. They both have American arms specifically in their publishing and American studios to help publish. And I know Capcom's a Japanese company and Ubisoft's a French company, but there's a lot of crossover in where their businesses lie.
The way I look at it is Division 2 gets pretty much free advertisement backing off of Resident Evil, and Resident Evil is like, hey, we get, more visibility within your group as well. So it was kind of a mutual ad effort, essentially.
They also went over a couple of tidbits for the Resident Evil movie coming to Netflix, as well as a series. I can't remember. But overall, once again, this is more of me just kind of highlighting some things. I think Capcom is an underrated publisher in game industry, which is weird to say because they're still a titan, right? Devil May Cry, Resident Evil, Dino Crisis,
Mega Man.
Mega Man, Street Fighter, like they own iconic properties.
Yeah, when you think of even like some Super Nintendo games or what, it doesn't, like they've made a lot of these big properties. It's nuts.
Ghouls and Goblins, baby. Ghouls and Goblins.
Wait, Capcom did that?
Yep. Wow. Yep. That new one's coming out on Switch next month.
Honestly, I don't know if I'm a fan based on what I've seen.
I mean, Capcom is one of the oldest heads in the game industry.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about it, they're literally older than Nintendo.
That's not true. Nintendo's over 100 years old.
No, I mean, they were making cabinets, 100
years.
Yeah, so Nintendo was making card games before they made digital games. Yeah, Nintendo is like one of the oldest companies.
Yeah, I'm about to say, we're talking about when
searching for the founding of these companies. Capcom was founded in 1979. Sega, being one of the only ones in this list older,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Sega and Konami being the older ones of it in this list. Nintendo was founded in. Oh no, I'm sorry. I thought it said 1989. It is 1889.
There you go.
There you go. I sit corrected.
I was about to say, I mean, they didn't get into games until later, but yeah, very much so.
But still, Nintendo, Sega, Konami, and Capcom sit as 4 very old heads in the gaming industry. They're definitely still a titan around. You know, like even with the games that they're coming out with now, like they are still a titan.
And I mean, what is our greatest analog? Atari, right? Like what was Atari?
Oh, 60s?
They're saying so. The Atari Inc. is founded in '93, but Nolan Bushnell started Atari in '69. Yeah. So there we go. But arguably, I can't think.
Atari Inc. says 72 for me.
So Bushnell founded the startup in '69, and then I think Inc. started in '72.
Okay,
yeah. But again, like that's on par with Konami. That's definitely on par with Sega. I mean, like Japan has led their industry, and they continue to lead their industry with all of these large publishers. They may not necessarily be as impactful as they used to, but I wanted to give Capcom props because for one,
they're still extremely impactful for game companies that were started around that generation. Sega is not the company it was at the time. Like, you know, it was a very prominent leader at that point.
Sega had a lucky break with Sonic. We're going down a rabbit hole. Hold on.
We are.
They didn't have a lucky break. They actually were developing something to try and be competitive, and they shot themselves in the foot in '94. And we could talk about that at a later date.
I feel like we've already. I feel like we've already talked about that actually too. But
I'll talk about it over and over again because I love that book.
Times,
yeah. And of course we have to acknowledge our boy B Scotch and Dots. One of his favorite games in the world, Monster Hunter World. Yeah, Capcom.
That he just now is never going to play again.
He's never going to play it. He's just going to go and move on to something else until.
He made a big deal about it. He's like, until Rise comes out, I'm done.
I know. Yeah. Monster Hunter Monday.
He does have a flair for the dramatic.
He is somewhat dramatic. I'm not going to lie. But no, I mean, I think it's fantastic that they're on an upswing. I would argue they're on the upswing again, like in the public eye. Yeah. The fact that they can set aside 15 minutes to make a big event. This is something that people set their reminders for. They were ready for this. IGN, GameSpot, Game Informer, all these places had articles about where you can watch the Resident Evil event today. Like, it makes me happy because I think that they should be recognized for this kind of worth. We talk about Naughty Dog a lot. We talk about, what Xbox and Microsoft's doing. Seeing them kind of come out of the woodwork makes me very happy.
Mm-hmm.
So
absolutely.
If you're excited, Resident Evil, I'd love to hear it. John, are you going to play 8? You going to play Village?
No, I actually tried to watch that demo and turned it off.
So here's my question to both of you, really. But you specifically, because you watched the demo. Do you think you have a harder time with the first person over third for horror?
Yes.
What about you, Mark?
I could watch it go eat someone else, no problem. If I have to watch them try to eat me, I have a problem.
See, I don't feel like I've played any horror game that is not first person. So
you know what we need to do, Brad? We need to put them in the VR. Let's put them in that VR and do that demo for 7. We all had to do it. No, we all had to do it, motherfucker. Your turn.
I don't like
the horror genre as it is.
We didn't either.
I don't do horror movies quite as much, but like, oof.
Here's the best part.
VR is something else.
Because of the PlayStation Collection, we own Resident Evil 7, and the entire game is playable via VR.
See, okay, so
all he has to do is the demo, though. Like, that's enough.
Dating it back a little bit, I remember playing the Resident Evil 5 demo.
Because
it was multiplayer. No, don't get me wrong, that wasn't particularly terrifying, but I was like, if the rest of the game is like this, I don't know if I'm necessarily going to enjoy it quite as much as I would something else.
Listen, I can't play Little Nightmares alone. So
dude, he's like, John, you have to come over here so we can finish this game.
Oh, no. Okay, so what was it? E3. They had the preview for Five Nights at Freddy's, the new Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yeah.
Okay, I watched that and I was like, oh, I'm good. I'm probably not going to play that ever.
Yeah.
I totally understand why people love horror. I've never been a big horror fan of movies. I've slept with my lights on for multiple nights because of horror movies. So when it comes to games, the last thing I want to do is
interact with it.
Go into the horror realm.
There are some see, I like substance within movies still, regardless of the genre, whether it be, action. Like, we like Other Guys because it's deep. It's deeper than people realize. You can appreciate it without having to
aim
get
for the
on
bushes.
that level. Exactly. And same thing with horror. Like, we watched like It Follows. That was a really good movie. Still slept on with the lights on for at least a couple of days until that shit left my head. And then and I watched slasher movies, and I'm like, our Cabin in the Woods was a good one. Like, technically a horror movie, but really well done. I still find it.
I don't know why I can do okay with slasher movies.
It's because it's just gore and death, no big deal. But if I had to watch a movie as Michael in first person all the time,
no,
I don't want to watch that.
Like Friday the 13th and Halloween series, like I can, whatever, like that really does not bother. Those series don't bother me that much. Mm-hmm. For some reason, it's always jump scare movies that bother me, which would put me in a weird space with horror games because that's all they're based around is the idea of jump scares.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nope.
1000%.
I'm good.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, even like House of the Dead, playing that game, like, because we were in the arcade and the way the camera was moving made it feel first person-y. And even though the graphics were absolute trash, it still had
amazing
an effect.
For their time, sir.
No, I'm talking about the last time I played it was not that time, but at the time it was great. Yes.
Every time I hear that franchise, all I think of reload, because that's all I'm like, shit, I gotta reload.
I'm hitting off the screen. Why is this fucking working?
Used an entire roll of $10 in quarters to beat that game one time. It was a lot of fun. But no, I'm with you both. The slasher, like the gore fest, Saw being another one, like doesn't really bother me.
Saw,
I love Saw.
That's not horror. That's gore. That's all it is.
Yeah. When it gets spoopy, when it gets cerebral, that's when I'm like, I'm out. I'm good. I don't need things I can't fight against physically.
Yeah, weirdly enough, it's really like in that, like, that's what Resident Evil was really good at, was making you feel helpless. Even if when you had a gun, you were pretty much helpless. Your goal was to figure out a solution to a puzzle, and that's what kind of made those games fun for people. But the problem is like, when I'm playing these games, I get so I'm like, man, I just don't want to be here. Like, we were talking about Outlast. We watched the journalist go in the house. And then in the first scene, I saw what happened. I'm like, nope. I'm crawling back, going back through the vent. Nope. Out back a window, light a fire, throw a Molotov, and leave.
Yeah, like the conceit a lot too is like, oh, my loved one is trapped here. I love a lot of people in my life. I'd be getting backup. I am one person. There's only so much I can do. Yeah. It makes no sense for me alone.
Rambo reincarnated into real life.
It makes no sense for me alone to go into this house with a bunch of zombies and be like, cool, I got this.
No. So here's what we need to do for game night one night. The three of us need to get Phasmophobia.
I watched Phasmophobia. It's fine. Like, it is first person, but it's not. It could be just because of the way I'm watching
person,
it.
It's, figuring out like ghosts and, like whatever else that might come in. If you start tossing it into the advanced levels, I'm going to send you guys a video link after for a group that played an advanced level. Some of Valkyrie we had talked about her, like winning at the VGAs. She plays with a group anyway in Phasmophobia, and they play in an advanced level. It gets kind of freaky from there because the ghost goes into a kill mode very quickly and tries to kill you very quickly.
All right.
I mean, if you want to play, you know me, I'm down to play. So we can record it, have a good time, and put it up for anybody who's interested.
All I can think of is a movie where they're like, hey, this abandoned psych ward? A bunch of people went missing in here. And let me guess, you want to go play in it? Yeah. Have a good day. We're not friends anymore.
one of the maps for Phasmophobia is a prison.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm good.
If it's just hiding inside, behind the bars, inside one of the cells, and then it comes out after you, that's not scary.
Fine.
Neater comes through the bars. Oh,
Not even a little bit. Please let us know what your thoughts are on the information involving the Resident Evil franchise. Are you excited about Village? Are you in preferential treatment to the first person over the third person? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section, floating directly.
If you'd like to see us play Phasmophobia, let us know in the comments.
That as well.
Floating where?
It's right next to my Joker poster because it's really creepy and I know it's hard to see all the time, but it's like right here. You're looking at the video. And if you're listening audio speakers, you can't respond to the comment section.
I don't agree to this.
But now I think it's time for last call.
Last call.
You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Of course, we're in our own quarantine bunkers as I grip my microphone towards me to stalk and talk. We, of course, have our own special guests this evening, and I, for one, am going to start with my own, which is this Taylor Flatgate 10-year-old Tawny Port. If you ever find this, is about a $30 bottle of port. Port is a very sweet dessert wine, so you don't want to drink too much of it very quickly because it's higher in alcohol content.
Every time we have it, we drink the whole bottle.
Heavy and sweet, and as you can tell, I cracked this today, and I've already started. You can't tell because of the light. That's fine. That's probably better for me. I've drank quite a bit already.
I think
we'll continue to drink some.
I think the last time I had that wine was whenever John, I think you had brought it for an IRL podcast before COVID and everything.
Correct.
I brought it for a lot of IRL podcasts.
It's very delicious. It's easy to drink, and I highly recommend it. For those who enjoy whiskeys, I actually think it complements really well, despite the fact that it's a sweeter wine, simply because it's meant to be sipped on, very similar to whiskey. Like, you don't want to engorge in this wine. It's a slow burn. It also pairs really well with cigars.
Yeah, it does. It does pair well with cigars, and I drink it. I'll drink it until I get drunk, and it's a fine drunk if you can handle. Yeah, I enjoy that drunk.
What are you drinking, John?
Slain. Almost done with the bottle. About to be probably completing that tonight. Then back to the good old Black Barrel.
Of course. What about you there, Marcus?
Well, I'm actually in sort of a clean house mode tonight with whiskey. So this was my handle. This is a 1.75 of Basil Hayden that I finished as part of our pre-show. And then I moved on to my decanter here. Oh, my custom laser engraved decanter with logo.
My initials on it. So sexy.
You can thank the girlfriend for that kind of thing. She
MJP,
she did a good job
major
there.
Jerking penis. Sorry,
that was weird.
Anyway.
You not see his initials? MJP.
I mean, yeah, it's a major jerking penis, but you don't have to say it out loud. We all know that.
Wait,
did anybody think it was anything else?
Is it the penis that's jerking or
major jerker of penises?
No, I like the penis jerking itself.
Yeah?
I think that makes sense.
Cool.
Yeah. It's
that's
got
just
like
like
little morphic arms. It's just like.
I was thinking more like it ties itself in a knot and then it just like it moves the knot
that's
up
fine
and down.
Too. Yeah, like a snake, right? Like a.
The snake just jerks itself. No, so I'm kind of cleaning house, but anyway, in the decanter, I had Glenlivet Founders Select, one of my favorite sort of cheap single malt whiskeys. I'll say cheapish single malt whiskeys. Anyway, it is the cheaper 60? Of their line. I think it tastes better than the 12-year. Not necessarily better than the 15-year, but the 15-year and the 12-year are like a $40 difference. But the Founder Select is the cheaper of them, and I think it tastes better, to be completely honest. But kind of cleaning house right now because I should have something new probably for next week. So we'll see what happens there.
Ooh, it's so nice. It's so nice. Perfect. Please let us know what you're drinking while you're watching or listening to this. Unless it's the middle of the day and you're driving, don't do that. Not good.
Please don't message us. Yeah, message us after you stop.
Yeah. Of course, we have a Discord. You're more than welcome to join. This past weekend, we had a bunch of people gather in the Charlotte region to go dirt biking. There should be some content surrounding that.
Oh, yeah.
We do a bi-weekly game night, and we also try to do other events as well. So please hop in and feel free.
We have the soccer event coming up on February the 6th. We should have content coming up within the week following after that. So
if you're willing to drive to the Charlotte area, you can join.
They don't expect me to play do that because I can't.
You should join our strange Discord, and look at our events in IRL channel and see what kind of stuff we have going on there because we do have IRL stuff going on.
Yeah, flag football. Absolutely. That was a good time.
Absolutely. People. Of course, we do have some weekly reading. Actually, we do have weekly reading this week. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. This is all about GameStop shares in the stock market. So this is actually going to be my article, but I wanted to shout out my topic, but I want to shout out.
I'm so glad you're talking about this
really badly. How Wall Street beats helped push GameStop shares to the moon and how it came tumbling down. This is a wonderful read. It is a Bloomberg article, so you have to create an account. I understand it's frustrating, but it's well worth looking into because they do some wonderful reporting. It was crazy over the weekend. Like, I mean, the way it was pushed from Sunday to Monday and then ending today at an all-time low. Fantastic.
Without getting in too much description of what happened or of what, shorts are, basically what happened is a large company or a large investment firm decided to short GameStop stocks, and Reddit responded in mass.
And it actually is very hilarious because they had to borrow stocks from other people. Essentially, they pay them essentially to borrow the stocks, and they're trying to put more money in to cover the losses. So it keeps climbing. It's the best.
Shorts are a funny business, and
don't fuck with Reddit. That's the moral of the story.
It is. I definitely think it's been crazy watching this all go. So
I have something. I have something to talk about with that after the show. By the way, because it's kind of a weird spot.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We also have some cool ass shit this week. 2 devs are working on transforming Bloodborne into a playable PS1 game. If you have not seen this article, you should click on it. You don't have to read it. Just look at the videos. They have multiple links of the various videos where they've already have the image or the models in the place with the mechanics. It is incredible. We got to get our own Beat Scotch and Dots to check it out because, quite frankly, I think it's one of the coolest things I've seen in a long time of some devs just trying to take a property and really play with it. There's also some cool stuff where a fan creates amazing sprites of new Pokemon from Sword and Shield in the style of Red and Blue. Really enjoyed that. Those are really cool, and that takes like 30 seconds to look at. Once again, in our description, fan creates a Link's Awakening in Minecraft. I thought this was really cool because they're starting to recreate the entire game. There's a small portion of it right now, but they're working on a mod that allows you to play Link's Awakening in Minecraft. Man, there's just so many passionate people with cool stuff. This is one of the reasons I wanted this section in our podcast to highlight it because it's just, man, it's so much fun.
It's some cool ass shit,
It's some cool ass shit. Finally, the developers of Celeste, which was originally created on the Pico 8, have released a sequel for the original Celeste on Pico 8. So there you go. Check all of those things out once again in our Google Doc in the description. But finally, our question of the week, which I may have asked this before, but quarantine has gone on for long enough that I think we can ask it again. Where's the place you want to go once out of quarantine? Once out of quarantine.
So you got during quarantine, so I was like...
no. Once out of COVID quarantine. And I'm thinking about this more as a realistic standpoint in the sense of like, I'd love to go to Ireland. I'd love to go to Japan. Those are places I want to go. But the place I want to go to most right now, honestly, is right up the road from me. I live in Matthews, North Carolina. There is a place called Carolina Beer Temple right up the road that has outdoor seating. And I just want to go so that we can all go have fun. Like, I just want to go to Carolina Beer Temple on a Saturday, where it's nice and cool, get some heavy beers and have a good time talking. That's where I want to go the most right now.
I'll bring the cigars.
I miss this interaction. It's not that we can't do it. I have a large backyard. We've talked about this before. We should all get together and do this. But like, I just miss the atmosphere of going to a bar and actively being around the noise, the sound and all that. I want to be back to that.
Weren't we just talking about the complete opposite at the beginning of this show?
This is true. But that's my wish. What about you guys?
Pretty much the same thing. Pick wherever you want to go to and I'll be there. I mean, it's just one of those things where it's like, I want to go out and hang out with my friends, and like wearing the mask like out and about really doesn't bother me. It's the fact that like, everybody's just, you have to be protective of yourself as well as for others. Like, you could take the risk yourself, but then if you go to other places, you put them in danger. And it's just like it's just a lot of weight on your shoulders all the time.
Yep.
I mean, you leave your car and you're like, oh shit, I can't do that. I would just like to be able to, you talk about a place. I'd be great for some normalcy.
Hey, that could be a headspace. I'm all down with that too.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, no, normalcy is definitely good there. I mean, I definitely agree that, You know, like
we
being able to just doing the normal thing and going out, like would definitely be great. Like the ability for us to just go out, or the ability for us to have the podcast in person again would be really nice.
Yes. Oh my God, that'd be fantastic. Yeah. Even if we continue this as a normal format, but having the option, right?
Yeah.
Like we want to do a special night. You're talking about like Phasmophobia. I mean, that requires computers, but like another one would be simply, hey, we want to play a game together. Let's play a game together. Let's be local. Let's do something. I agree. I agree entirely.
Yeah, being able to sit next to you to play a video game and not have to worry. You know?
Like whenever we did Dead Space, for example, like we all sat, like on the couch together anyway and played Dead Space, or Tetris. What was the?
Oh, Tetris Effect.
Tetris Effect. Yeah. That was awesome. Like that was a great time, and I miss doing that kind of stuff.
I can't wait till we do it again. You're VR'd in Biohazard.
In Biohazard.
Oh hell!
Listen, we can pass the headset around. I'll do it. It'll be a lot of fun. But please.
But now my biggest one is my family used to do beach trips every year around summer to like Thanksgiving kind of range. I kind of miss doing that kind of trip. Like we haven't lately anyway, because, like my grandparents coming and whatnot, like they really can't go with COVID and whatnot. Plus, housing rentals have not been the most feasible thing. So I think I really hope that we reopen so that like my family can do that kind of stuff again, because I really enjoy those kind of trips.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Ooh, I got another one.
Absolutely.
We can go. Yeah, the cool, not really where I want to go, but the cool, like, you usually walk into a place like, I don't know, Chuck E. Cheese, and it feels like you're going to get AIDS from sitting down in a seat, right? It's going to be the cleanest the first week of like when everything goes back to normal and everybody stops giving a shit again. It's going to be the cleanest Chuck E. Cheese you've ever seen.
Weird. I love that.
Weird.
I love you went that direction.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I thought you were going the opposite direction. We were like, I can't wait to put myself at risk again.
As a side note, did you guys know that Chuck E. Cheese sells beer?
Yeah, it's the only way to keep the parents sane.
I had no idea.
Have to, man. Yeah, again.
Or they bring in their own.
Clean.
That's their clientele. Mm-hmm. If you want higher clientele, you go to Monkey Joe's. Okay. Sorry, that was a low blow.
Absolutely. But please let us know what your thoughts are on where you would like to go. Hopefully it's not Monkey Joe's. Hopefully it's not just a Chuck E. Cheese to drink beer. There's better places to do so. You have all those options available to you. Please, for the love of God, if you don't have a child, don't go to Chuck E. Cheese to drink beer.
You're weird.
You can let us know in the comment section.
You're John.
Floating in the middle of this video. But until next time, cheers.
Oh, God. Cheers.